And hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Melissa Banks Show. I'm Cyrus Webb. We're excited to be able to bring Melissa in for this week's episode to talk about something that's very important in business, but also in life, and that is, what do you do when things don't work out? You know, you have this idea for a business. You just know that everything is going to be perfect, but what do you do if it doesn't work out that way? That's what we're going to be talking about today. There is Melissa. Going to go ahead and bring her in. Tessa Marie, hello to you. Good to see you. Good to see you, JB, as well. Appreciate you. Going to go ahead and bring in Miss Banks, and we'll get started. And we'll remind you guys how you can be a part of this week's episode as well. If you guys are not following Melissa, we're going to make sure you guys know how to do that too. And there she is. Melissa, how are you?
Doing great. How are you today?
Doing amazing. Glad to see you as always. So again, another great topic for us to dive in today when we can really apply this to business and in life. And that is, what do you do when things don't work out? When things go awry? ESP Presents. Hello to you. Good to see you. I appreciate you being with us. Now, a couple housekeeping things for you guys. If you have not done so already, you'll notice right here, there's a drop-down arrow. You can then be able to follow Melissa or myself right here. But also, you'll notice you'll be able to see everyone else who's a part of today's broadcast. You can be able to follow them as well, be able to connect with them, to network with them. Also, if you guys do have a question, feel free to be able to use the bubble you see down below. In that, there's a question mark inside the bubble. Make sure you guys put your question in there. We'll be glad to bring it on. Melissa, this has been a lot of fun already as we're getting up to be a month already of doing this show. But today is really interesting because last week we talked about starting, right? How do you start? But once you start, I think one of the things that people sometimes think is that, hey, everyone's going to need what I have to offer. I'm just going to announce I have a business. I'm going to announce I have a book. I have a new album that's out, a new service, and everyone's just going to run to it. Hello to you, Columbus, as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. So, Melissa, the question then becomes, what do you do when things don't work out? So first of all, take us into your experience. It's a backdrop of this, Melissa. When you first began as a event planner, did you have those hopes as well for yourself?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I'm excited for this week's show. These 4 weeks have went so quickly. I'm excited to be here. Absolutely. Yeah. I have to share this, and I've shared this publicly before. I thought that it happens quickly. I thought that it would just blow up. And I thought just because if I worked hard, I would be successful, right? My first year doing weddings, I did 3. My first event, I wanted to do flower arrangements. I went all out. I showed up big, beautiful. People told me how gorgeous it was, but nobody bought a thing. I went home, didn't sell a thing. So no, it doesn't always work out. Even though it's a great idea, even though you work hard, sometimes it still just doesn't work out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's ESP Presents says, I see my iPhone by Bubble on. Okay, well, you need to switch then. ESP. That's all I got to say about that. Get with the program, ESP Presents. But no, Melissa, this is an important topic because I think there's a few layers to this, right? I am a person, and people have disagreed with me about this, and I'm not saying it's right, but it's been right for me. I began my business with the idea, if you build it, they will come. That's what I came to my mind with. Now, I have to say, 90% of what I have built has been exactly what I set out to do, right? Not everything did work out the way I thought it would. However, Melissa, you're still here. You're still here doing what it is that you love. So many people, unfortunately, when things don't turn out the way they expected, when they start a new business, start a new, whatever it might be, they give up on it. What helped you to not give up on your goal and dream? And what advice can you then give to our audience here about just because things don't out of the gate blow up, the importance of not giving up on it?
Well, first of all, let me just say this, and I say this from my heart, that when you make quitting an option, it seems easier to quit. When it gets hard, when it gets tough, when nothing seems to be working, it seems easier to quit because you've already made it an option. If you keep telling yourself quitting is not an option, that means I have to do something different to keep going. sometimes what we thought was the passion, what we thought was the dream, turns out not to be. So you have to keep going in order to see what you're supposed to be doing. Over the years, though, Cyrus, I'll tell you something that has worked for me and helped me to keep going, even in the tough times, even in times like we're in now. It helps me to keep going is constantly re-evaluating what I'm doing, constantly looking at the services and the things that I'm offering and the things that are most important to me, that regardless, I want to make sure I keep going doing that thing, but maybe it's some other things that I need to take away or maybe do differently. Reevaluate how you're doing your business. What is it that you're doing that's working well, what's not working well, and make the changes that you need to make in order to keep going. When you decide nothing is going to stop me, your focus then has to be on how do I keep going? And reevaluating is the first step.
That's a great point. Mrs. J, hello to you. Glad to see you. I appreciate all of you who are coming in. For those who are just coming in, let me quickly catch you guys up. You all are watching the Melissa Banks Show. It's a Cyrus Represents production. We do this every Wednesday here on IG Live. We share it on other platforms, but Master Event Planner Entrepreneur Melissa Banks, who you see down below me, we are talking to her today about a very important topic. Last week, we talked about how you get started in business and what her tips were for that. So if you missed that last week, you can find it on our IG page. So make sure you guys check that out. But today we're talking about what do you do when things don't work out? And we're talking about a variety of things: starting a business, starting a course, writing a book, playing music, being able to pursue a career for yourself, especially, Melissa, what we've seen in the past, I would say 2 years, where so many people have had to look at other options to diversify their income, to look, maybe they lost their jobs or maybe their hours were cut and they're looking for things. I want to talk about, though, something else you mentioned, and I think it's an important thing because people will gas us up. They will make us think we're the best thing out there. Well, man, ain't nobody like you in that. Ain't nobody can do what you do. You get out there, you're just going to kill the game. You mentioned about people telling you how beautiful your bouquets were, and I'm sure they were. But when did you realize, Melissa, that them realizing it was one thing, but the people who might actually buy it and finding those people was a different thing?
And that's a little bit harder. Because you get a cheering team around you, right? We had people taking pictures. You get a cheering team. It's harder to get the people around. That's why it's so important to surround yourself with people that's going to tell you the truth, help you see past the excitement, help you see past the emotions of it. Because I tell you, I don't want to leave it there that I didn't sell anything that day, but when I went home, I knew I was where I was supposed to be. I knew that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I had to learn how to do it to make some money at it because, you need a cheering squad, but you need the folk that's going to buy too, right? So I had to learn, and that came with time. One of the things I advise people right now is to make sure you're doing something you love, but also make sure you got an audience, the people that will pay you for what you do so that you can make money at it. Because if you don't make money at it, you're not going to stay with it, right? The cheer is just going to keep you going for a little while. Sometimes I want some cheering, but sometimes you just need somebody that's going to just put it out there and going to joke with you. You need a coach, a mentor like the guy above me that's going to tell you when it's right, regardless if it hurts your feelings, so that you can grow from that. And that's the kind of people that you need around you. Then you need to determine what you want to do. What does it look like? Visualize it. I had to learn that, though. Visualize what you want to do and what does it look like.
Exactly. Columbus says, great advice. Tessa Marie says, I constantly say, tell me the truth. Please do not lie to me. And that's the thing, Tessa Marie. I have learned, I don't know what Melissa's talking about, by the way. I'm one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So I don't know what she's referring to when she says that. But the telling the truth part is so important. I get mad at people who don't tell me the truth. Mm-hmm. If I come to you and I ask you your opinion about something, you actually have a thought and you don't share that thought because you're afraid it's going to hurt my feelings, you're not helping me. And I think that's the thing people don't get. You're not helping me if you are keeping me where I am by not telling me what you think may happen. And I think that is the big thing there. ESP Presents has a really good question here. And Melissa, both of us can relate to this. What do you say to people that start 5 businesses and hardly working the one? Is it good to have many businesses? Now, ESP Presents, I'm going to let Melissa answer that, but I want to say, my parent company that's registered is Conversations Media Group. That's my parent company. But there are 7 different layers underneath that, including the show that you guys are watching now, Cyrus Ware Presents, here on IG. So I'm one of those people who has different layerings. And I personally, for myself, and I'll get Melissa's take on this, it has worked for me because I devote time to each and every one. But it also goes into planning. So can you do it? Yes, you can definitely do it. There are people out there, some of the biggest names out there, they may have a cosmetic line and a clothing line, and they're able to do marketing, and they're able to be a spokesperson. I think it really depends on your planning, but also the purpose behind it. Melissa, what are your thoughts about that question?
I love this question, actually. When I first started my business, I was of the mindset that you find that one thing that you do well and you do it the best you can and you stick with that one thing. But I found out quickly that if you want to grow and expand your brand, then you want to do more than one thing. My brand header is DMD Event Planning and Design, and everything else falls under that. But there's several different things that fall under that. The key to me is doing something that connects to your brand, because if you're in the event industry and you want to make sure that everything you do connects, you don't throw something in there that's totally different from what you do, because it would be hard for brand identity. But I think it's amazing I had to learn the hard way that you need more than one thing that you do well, because you do a lot of things well, right? And you hit the key. You said you manage each one of them and you have the attention time to spread through them. That's the key, is managing the time and to give each one of them the attention that they need, which is challenging, which was a challenge for me initially. And I think that's why I just was in weddings. I wanted to do weddings and I didn't want to do anything else. That was hurting my business and that was hurting my brand. So once I started doing other things that I do well and learning it, the key, you got to know what you're doing, though. So don't just pick something and say, oh, I'm going to start doing that because I can make some money. You have to be willing to invest in the training, invest in the learning. One of the things when COVID hit, you know this for yourself, I had to get some training on the technology side, on the virtual side, so that I can expand my business into virtual, because that was a need. So I think it's awesome. I think it's amazing. And I think it's what you have to do if you want to continue to grow your brand.
So true. IG Live with Angela says, honest feedback is helpful and shows you genuinely care. That is so true. And ESP Presents made another comment here. I'm going to go back to it there and pin it for a second. There she says, I agree, because I'm a book club owner as well as a literary event planner. And that's the thing. I mean, so that I think is the big thing here. We have to talk about something else here, Melissa, that is important for our audience. And some people are going to get mad, but people have learned I really don't care.
Yeah.
Because it's the truth. And again, we're talking about being honest. You have to stop listening to the wrong people too. And it goes in 2 different areas. Growing up, I'm 46. My grandmother, when she looked at what I was doing, because of her generation, and again, we're talking about pre-internet, pre-anything, before horse and buggy. But her generation, they were told you pick one thing and you do that one thing. There's a saying out there, jack of all trades, master of none. And there can be some truth in that, but it does not mean that you can't do more than one thing, because there's also a saying that says, do not put all your eggs in one basket. So, Melissa, how important has that been for you? You mentioned earlier about surrounding yourself with the right person. There are people who will mean well. We're talking family, supposed friends, our online family, which we appreciate. But how important is it for you to choose who you listen to and what you do with that information that you hear?
Because who you listen to is feeding into your mind. Everything starts with the thinking. If you think that you have to do one thing and that's the only thing you can do, whether you're failing at it, whether you're making money at it or not, that's the only thing you can do, and you got 10 people around you that's telling you that that's all you can do, then that's all you're going to do, because that's what you're getting fed into your mind. Your mind is what determines the actions you take later. That's why it's not only important who you talk to, including family, and sometimes I would put family number one. But those friends, they can still be your friend, but they cannot be in your space. You cannot share your dreams and goals and visions with them because they can't see it. If they're
Yeah.
of the mindset that you can only do one thing, then that's what they're going to give you back. And you're going to be stuck doing that one thing and not doing everything that you're purposed to do, not doing everything that you have in your heart to do because you're listening to the wrong people. It matters who you listen to. It matters what you watch on social media and who your friends are and what pages you like. All of that matters because it's feeding into your thoughts, into your spirit, and it will determine your actions going forward. I don't care what you say. I believe that it
Yeah.
determines what you do next.
Such a great point. Upscale PR, hello to you. Glad you can join us. Columbus Toy says everything starts with your thoughts, and that's exactly right. And again, I want to say something too. I saw a great meme, and Melissa, you may have seen this too. I can't remember if it was here on IG on Facebook, where someone says, stop expecting everyone to buy into your God-given vision. It wasn't a conference call. I mean, people cannot see what was not given to them.
That's right.
So, and I think that's the other thing too, is if you truly have been given something, it doesn't matter who tells you what's not going to work, or what will work, because you have to be the one doing the work. So for those who are just coming in, this is the Melissa Banks Show. I'm Cyrus Webb. I talked with Melissa Banks today. Last week's episode, and we're here every Wednesday here on IG and on other platforms, but last Wednesday we talked about getting started. This week we're talking about what do you do when it doesn't work out. And that means when you started your business, you're not getting the traction you want. You've written that book and people aren't buying it. You've written that music, released that single and people are not buying into it. You started that business and people are not doing what you thought that they would be doing with it. What do you do at that point? Melissa's been giving some really good tips here about the importance for one, I think, to be able to really assess yourself, but also I think how much is, let's talk about this part. You alluded to this a little bit earlier, Melissa, managing expectations. Because again, we all think we have the greatest thing, right? We've done the greatest thing. How important is it for us to be passionate, but still to manage those expectations with reality?
Well, first of all, I think you have to set some goals, right? I believe in goal setting. I believe for me, when I set a goal, and I'm one of those people that set a big goal, that seems unreasonable, but I need that to push me to make me work harder. But set some goals for yourself, even though it's something you absolutely love. You got to break it down. Set a goal and then break it down into action and take the action to make the goal happen. Cheer along the way. One of the things that I always say is you got to celebrate your successes in order to keep going. If you wait for that big goal to celebrate where you are, then you miss it. You miss out because you're focused up here. But be true and be real with yourself that what you're doing is what you should be doing, and you're doing it how you should be doing it. Don't misinform yourself. We were talking about people who pour into you, tell you it's great even if it's not great. You have to be true to yourself about what it is that you do well. And if you don't do it well, but you really want to do it well, then go get the education, invest in yourself so that you can be able to deliver it well. But be true, have the goals, break them down in steps, and be real about what it is you're doing. What does it look like? What will it take? I'll give you an example. If you want to make $30,000 in the first 2 months of 2022, set that as a goal, but then break it down. How are you going to make it? How many clients is it going to take? What is it that you have to produce? That keeps you fired up, for one thing. It keeps you going and it keeps you working hard. And then you can grow the business that you want.
Yeah, I'm going to come back. That's a great point, Melissa. I want to come back to that. Butterfly Thoughts, hello to you. We see you. Thank you so much for being on with us. Tess Marie says something that's really powerful here. Melissa, if we listen to those who told us it won't work, we would still be riding horses. That is so true. I mean, you have to think bigger than sometimes even your circumstances. Columbus says we have to enjoy the journey. Totally agree. And Upscale PR says this is exactly what I do with my clients. And I think we have Lou. Lou, thank you so much for being on with us as well. Lou says that they are an artist and graphic designer. So you were saying something, Melissa, and something popped in my head, as sometimes happens when people are talking. I'm like, wait a minute, I want to ask about this. Because we are leaving out one component in this. And this is also big. And I'm saying this for all of us that are on here live, those who will watch the replay. We start this thing, right? We have people gassing us up. We talked about that, about how it's going to do. We're talking about it not working, But let's talk about, are we doing the work?
Mm-hmm.
Because just releasing that single, just writing that book and publishing it, just starting a business, that's just the beginning. Then that's when the real work begins. Melissa, how important was that for you to realize that you starting your business was one thing, but you're grinding and actually promoting that business, marketing that business, doing your part each and every day was going to help you reach that goal?
Because that's a whole different thing. When you realize, yes, I can start a business. Anybody can start a business. You can start it with a few clicks on your computer. The business is started. But if you don't do the real work, and another thing, not just the work necessary to get you to where you want to be. See, one of the mistakes that I made, and I tell people, it's so awesome to have somebody to tell you about their mistakes so you don't have to make them too. But one of the mistakes I made, I was busy all day. I was doing stuff. I was going into the office. I was doing stuff. God knows what I was doing. I don't know. But I was doing stuff, but I wasn't doing the stuff I needed to be doing in order to grow the business, in order to move the business to the next step. So we have to be careful that we're not just being busy to say we're busy, but we're being busy to reach the goals for the business. That's why goal setting is so important, is because it keeps you, make sure you're doing the business work that you need to be doing to make the difference. Oftentimes it's not easy, it's not fun work, and we put it off. But when we're putting it off, we're also putting off reaching our goals. And that's the key, doing the work and doing the right work at the right time so that your business can grow and do what it takes. It's not easy getting up early and working all day. I tell people all the time, entrepreneurship is not easy. It is hard, actually. But if it's your dream and what you want, you feel so inspired to keep going. The harder I work, the harder I want to work.
Yeah. And it's not glamorous too. I think sometimes we make it, well, I mean, part of it is, I think, that side of it, but it is not glamorous. I enjoy doing the red carpet stuff. I enjoy doing the celebrity interviews and all of that, but that's only a small portion of the business. There's so much more that people don't see, as they call it in Washington, the sausage making. They don't see the sausage making. And I think that's the big thing here. And that's, Tessa Marie says it is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Exactly. Now, I do get my 6 hours of sleep, Tessa Marie. You're not going to get me to admit to me not sleeping. I do get 6 hours. So I get that. But not everyone can stay up to midnight and then, sleep in until 8. I'm not talking about Melissa. I'm just saying that. I'm not judging. That's not what I do here. I don't judge. I moderate. I'm just moderating this conversation. I'm just saying. But I mean, so let's talk about this, Melissa. As we our time always gets away.
I know.
How did this happen? Okay, so let's talk about the call to action, right? Because last week we talked about starting the business. The business is started. But now we're talking about the work it takes to actually get it going, right? Mm-hmm. Next week, I think will be to be able to think about the components that's necessary even for that, for the day-to-day stuff. Mm-hmm. What we need to be doing, where we need to be checking in online and offline as we kind of think about building this business. But you mentioned, too, about being able to share so others don't have to experience this. Part of your services, you do consulting. Mm-hmm. You're not just on the event planner side, but also business and entrepreneurship. So what would you say to our audience out there, Melissa, about the importance of starting that planning now? Let's say they decided to make January that time they're going to start their business or write that book, release that new project. What would you say to them about the importance of starting the planning now?
Oh, it's absolutely, you're behind, because January 1st is getting really close, right? So you need to get started already. You need to have some goals. You need some direction. That's where the consultation comes in, is you don't have to be out there running around all over the place trying to figure out, where do I start? What do I do? You can get some direction. One of the things that we fail at is when we get our idea, we want to just figure it all out because we got the internet. You can't learn everything on Google. You have to get some advice and some information from the experts, the people who have done it before. It's no reason for everybody to make the same mistakes, right? So get started now. Book a consultation with someone, if it's not me, with someone, to give you some direction to get started, so you're not out there like and running around like crazy because you're already behind. It's time to get it done and get it done now.
Yeah. Edie, thank you so much for being on with us. She says awesome stuff. It really is awesome stuff. Melissa knows her stuff. You know, I give her a hard time because she deserves it. But she really, she really does know herself. I have to keep her humble. Like my mom keeps me humble. I have to keep Melissa. If I don't, her head will be like this. I'm trying to keep it within this frame. You know, we have to keep everything vertical here. So we have to keep her head from going too far outside the frame. so Melissa, okay, so 3 things I want you to tell them. One, first, let them know how they can be able to connect with you for a consultation.
Okay, to connect with us, simply go to themelissabanks.com and click book my consultation. It'll take you right to the consultation page where you book it, and we'll get back with you for to schedule the exact time.
All right. Secondly, you have a virtual conference that's coming up that one of the people that's joining us today, hey, Brandon, good to see you, man. Tessa Marie is actually one of your speakers. How can they find out information about the virtual conference and get their ticket?
Okay, the virtual conference is Imagine the Possibility Virtual Conference. Is held January 29th, 2022. You can get all the information, ticket information, advertisement information for your business right there at themelissabanks.com. It's the very first link when you pop in there. It's get your tickets for Imagine the Possibilities.
And last but certainly not least, you have your dream boxes that you have designed. I posted a video of a snippet of an interview we did a couple of years ago about them, but I posted it yesterday. They can see it on my page. How can they find out how they can get a dream box, Melissa?
The dream box has been amazing this year, and the way you can go to themelissabanks.com, click purchase your dream box, and you can have delivered right to the door of somebody special, some amazing inspiration. The key is themelissabanks.com.
All right, and that is the link in her bio. Great job, Melissa. You're just rolling it out, Melissa. You got this. You got it. You got it down. That's what I'm talking about. Melissa, another great episode. So glad that you could share this information with us today. Again, last week we talked about getting started in your business, in your event. This week we talked about what to do when things don't work out. We're not going to call it a failure, but when things are not working out the way you want them to, you're not getting the attention, the business isn't going the way you want, the product isn't going the way you want. Next week we're going to talk about some of the things you need to kind of tick through to make sure you're utilizing both online and offline, because we live in a world now where both are important. Those online connections are great. That's why I love being with you guys here. But those offline connections, of course, are also important. We're going to be diving into that next week. Melissa, really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Always a pleasure. And we thank you all for watching this week's episode of The Melissa Banks Show. Join us back here next week, same time, right here on IG Live and other platforms for another great episode. Until then, you all make it a great one. We'll talk soon. Take care.